The Power of Awareness. This is a recording with Steve Adar, who is coming to Sweden for a weekend in May, den 5:e till 7:e, in Hönö in Gothenburg, on an island. We're going on the whole weekend. Hello, Steve, and welcome to this video recording.
Hi, and thank you so much. It's so good to see you once more and to be with you. So thank you for doing this with me.
Yeah, we were together in February, was it? Yeah.
Yes.
Also in Gothenburg, and it was the host was Ylva and Kia. This time it will be Ylva Nordh from Gothenburg. She's the host for this weekend, and we met in Gothenburg and had a beautiful weekend, and I felt that I wanted to come back and meet you again, because I felt that I could fall into this nice, beautiful feeling, and who don't want to be in that feeling.
Yeah, I love that. And the really good thing about it too is I get to hang out too with all of you guys. And that's very different from when I used to do the trainings before. I don't see this as a training anymore. We've called this retreat. And in simple terms, retreat for me is going within. And going within is where all the answers to what we're seeking is there behind our personal thinking. And we've kind of got into a place in our psychology that it's difficult to go within. We have to do this, and there's so many limitations that we put on ourselves. And I'll say innocently, because if we knew how to do differently, we would do differently. So for me, the retreat is really bringing people together where we begin to understand these three beautiful spiritual gifts of mind, thought, and consciousness. And how, not what they are as steps to follow, but how you are them in action already. The moment we hit this earth, we were using these three principles to make sense of the world that we live in. And as we begin to grow, then we start developing our intellect. And it's a personal intellect. So no one else has the intellect that we have. No one has the thinking that we have, even though we're all intellectual and even though we're all thinkers, no one is like you. But we have got lost by looking outside of ourselves into society and wanting to be bigger than someone else or better than someone else, and so on. And that has got us lost, and a feeling of being disconnected from that power of awareness of who we are. And when Ylva and I were speaking about if I come back over again this year, the very first time I came over was with my partner Tony, and we led a 3-day retreat in the island of Hönö, and it was just so beautiful. And this is not going to recreate Hönö because it's in a different place, but that moment has gone. Hönö was something like maybe 4 years, maybe 5 years ago. So this time, for me, it's an opportunity where we do bring people together, and we actually begin to. So when I come speaking English with a Scottish accent, which makes me laugh. But and obviously that's not everyone's first language. But the beautiful thing that I've seen is that language and understanding language is not always necessary. Even when you speak the same language, the same language as someone, we misinterpret what they think they're saying. So the beautiful thing about really not understanding 100% what I'm saying is you're more than halfway there of truly retreating, understanding the feeling that we're actually pointing to. So for me, that's exciting. I was saying to you before we came on, there was a beautiful man who came when I was in Gothenburg the last time, and we did the Friday evening talk, and then the Saturday and the Sunday, and I knew that he was only going to be there for the talk, and he sat at the back of the room, and I noticed that he kind of had a frown, and then he had a smile, but the smile was staying there for longer. We finished the talk, and people were going, and I kind of stood near the door so I could just say hi and bye to those who I hadn't a chance to speak to. And when I says hello to him, he says to me, "English not good." And I says, "Okay, just how you feel?" "I feel wonderful." And his face just lit up that I really could feel he was in a wonderful state of mind. Now, I didn't know what that was like for him, but I got to see it. I got to witness him wake up from his psychological numbness or his psychological thinking. And on this retreat, that is my hope for every single person who joins us, is that we get to see that, yes, we are thinkers, but we don't have to hold our thinking against us. And when we do have thinking, then we can see, just like the other day when I was looking at the window, we honestly had 4 seasons in one day. We had rain, we had the snow, we had the sunshine, we had the high winds. And it looked like, oh my goodness, we've just gone through a year in the weather outside. We are like the weather sometimes in our thinking. Sometimes we feel like a storm, and the biggest, strongest gale force winds you could ever experience is going on inside our thinking. And that makes the world feel very small. It makes the world sometimes feel very big and scary. But on the retreat, my hope is that you get to understand that isn't who you are. That's the misunderstanding of thought. So we move from our personal thinking to understanding one of the principles of thought. And it's a beautiful gift that we get to witness creation firsthand by how we are experiencing it, nobody else. That's a beautiful thing to experience. And I've seen that in that experience, we are living moment to moment. And that moment allows us just to see what we're seeing in all its simplicity, or all its grandness, but all its beauty. And I've had experiences, and I know it's true for other people too, where I've still had a storm going on in my thinking, but I felt so calm. And I was like, what's this about? So I became my own best teacher to realize that, Steve, you are a thinker. We're all thinkers. And when you try to change your thinking by thinking, you're only going to get more thinking. So this isn't about saying, let's stop. Let's look at steps and how we stop your thinking. This is actually seeing that you are the one having the moment. And you get to see what's happening in your experience. And I know from experience myself, even if it's just a little glimmer of peace of mind or quietness, that is enough to stop the chatter just for a moment for you to remember who you are. And as you're remembering, that's the awareness. The retreat, I really hope, is in the moments of remembering who you truly are, you're also remembering who you're not. And that's beautiful when people witness that. When people wake up into, you mean I don't have to overthink anymore? Well, you will overthink, but you don't have to be powerless to the overthinking, is what I'm saying. We can have stressful thinking and not be stressed. And sometimes stressful thinking, and I say sometimes, is helpful because it moves us, it gets us into action. But it's when we're taking it seriously. That's the misunderstanding. And I want people to simply to know is that we don't have to struggle anymore. And that when I heard Sydney Banks, who uncovered these principles, say mental health is one thought away, I really see that. It looks like I lose it sometimes, and then it's, it just got a little bit clouded. I just overthinking and was looking in a different direction. So I'm not coming along to say, guys, I know it all. Come and hang out with me. What I know is what I know. And what will show up in the moment on this retreat will be unique for us all. That's the moment. And that's all I know, because in that silence that the moment brings, or the quietness that the moment brings, there is much to be said in that silence. And I don't mean from our intellect, I mean from the spiritual intelligence of who we are.
It's like when you got a whole weekend, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, you get the chance to slow everything down. And you don't think so much about all your stuff at home, your work and your family and your house and money and all that stuff. It doesn't occupy your brain. You just fall into this nice feeling with other people, and we have our breakouts. We go and eat breakfast, we go and eat lunch, we have time to speak to each other. And I can see that when you are away for a whole weekend, things happened with you. You got more insights, and maybe you can't see it right there, but after a while, when you come home, you can feel that things have opened up for more. Yeah. And I didn't understand the English in the beginning, but I also got thoughts saying to me all the time that, no, you can't English, you can't understand English. So I was talking to myself all the time like that. So I had to quit, do that. So, and listen more to the feeling. Because I understood that I can't write all these things down. Steve are saying, how can I do that? 3 days, a lot of reading. It's not like you're going to school. It's the opposite.
Yeah.
Put all that stuff outside and come in with an open mind and just relax. See how it comes to you, and maybe you got a insight from within.
Yeah.
So it's so different and sometimes difficult to explain. What are you doing the whole weekend? What had he said? And it doesn't matter what Steve are saying. Yeah. It matters what it comes from, what place in him it comes from.
Yeah. And the beautiful thing about a weekend, I like how you point to the fact it's almost like when we leave home, we're leaving the physical home there. And it allows us to all come together and be together over that weekend. And when you have a retreat setting like that, then we can just go with the flow. We can really just hang out and get to know one another. We can really hang out, more importantly, and get to know ourselves. And so there will be spaces, I believe, for that. You know, it used to be so interesting when I did retreats and programs many moons ago, so let's take about 20 years ago, I had it regimented how it needed to look like. We'd break it this time, we would do that. And of course, we will take people's, if people need to eat at a certain time, we will take that into consideration. But I love just playing when we get together and just seeing where we go. This venue that we're going to is by the ocean. It also has a beautiful woodland area, 5, maybe 10 minutes walk, depending how fast you walk. So we have nature all around us. And nature is the most beautiful teacher, because in nature, we get to meet ourselves. Like, you know, when people go and they sit by a beach and it's, oh, I love the sunshine and it's wonderful. And my brother's experience was like, no, I'm blonde haired, blue eyes, so I'm just going to burn if I sit out here, whether I'm not. So I was like, yes, I love the sun. Let's put him when it's really blowing heavy and he's like, I love this weather. I'm like, no, I want another coat and a hat on, it's too cold. So our realities are very different. But Ylva's put a lot of work into making sure that this is a comfortable, relaxed place for us all to be. And it was recommended by someone who attended Gothenburg, and then Ylva went to have a look and just trusted the feeling that it was the right place to be. And all I know is that we'll get together on the Friday and we'll have fun. And we'll have laughter. And we'll have new beginnings and new understanding and the true world of who we are wake up. And the great thing about it is that we get to learn from one another too. Not as in you taught me, but we get to maybe hear something that somebody's sharing. So through that, for those who wish to share as we're going along, the great thing about me being there and the other people being there is like we can bounce off one another, i.e. we can ask questions of one another without over talking what are these principles. So it's not a learning thing that you're actually coming from, it's actually the unlearning.
Unlearning, yeah.
Yeah, it's the unlearning of who you are that we're
It's
going.
really an unlearning.
Absolutely. You know that there is
There's so much stuff in life that doesn't help us.
it doesn't.
So, but we don't know that.
We
can't
don't.
see that. And we trust that, but when we can see what we are pointing to here, when you go inside and connect with your heart, you follow your heart, things change, because you started to feel who you are.
Yeah. And you know, it's just like a light bulb goes off inside. Something just is understood. And that new thought has the ability for everyone to be in a peace of mind. And that mental health is always behind our thinking. So that's why I don't believe that I will teach you anything new. You will get to realize what you already know. Now, of course, I will be sharing what's showing up for me in the moment. So you will be learning, you will be hearing things which will help spark. But I'm speaking to the health that already lies inside every single person, the mental health. You know, all the years that I've studied psychology, I was never told about the health of the person. It was the sickness of the person, what was wrong with the person. And when I heard from beyond my thinking that time, that our spiritual nature creates psychology, and it lights us up to a new world with every thought that we have. When I heard that, a light bulb, an insight went off inside of me. And even though I didn't truly know what it meant, that feeling was so welcoming. I just knew that I couldn't argue with the feeling. And I did that so many times through my life where I would analyze, have to make sense of everything. If I'm a therapist, I've got to be a good therapist. I need to explain it to people properly. And I let all that go now. Because I just find that when you just meet someone where they are, and you can speak heart to heart, and that can just be hanging out and laughing. That can be walking along a beach. That can be playing a sport. That can be whatever. But when you're truly present to someone, there is awareness, it begins to flow between you, which shows that we're really not that different because we're all connected in the intelligence of who we are. And I love when the best that I can speaking from that place, because I know that's where the feeling comes from. When a little bit like you were sitting down, what is Steve saying? I would have been hours before, what do I need to say? And
Yeah.
now it's like, as you saw in Gothenburg, it's just in the mornings, I just love sometimes when I just get a sentence or a word and I mark it down. And it's like, I'm going to be so curious, will I say this later on? And out of 17 things that I wrote down over that weekend, I think I talked about 5. And only because it became alive again in that moment. When I'd written it, it's almost like dead then, because that was the moment gone. So I don't want to go back and live and rehash and just try to remember what was it I got when I was in the shower that morning. Oh my goodness, what I need to share. No, I can just let all of that go and trust if it's meant to come back, it will be the moment for me. And I just love seeing that.
Yeah, because the most beautiful thing with this is that it isn't a work.
Yeah.
We used to have it like that. We must go to all kinds of yoga, meditation, trainings, therapy forms, a lot of work to do. And if you are stressed already with a lot of thoughts and you are so tired in your body because you're thinking and thinking and thinking and overstressed, and then you need to go to yoga and blah, 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 blah. It's a lot of work. And then it's very easy to get outburned and depressed, like I did. It was so for me. So when I found this, I saw the beauty to just rest, to just fall in. There was nothing for me to do. It was the opposite. Take all that stuff away and just be present, be here, and rest from all that stuff. Like small children, like animals, like our dogs, and they have nothing they need to work for to get this quiet place. Open up for that. It's already here. It's already here.
What I heard there was like we innocently look through our past to tell us how to behave. And what I heard from you then was like, you don't have to do that anymore. You can if you wish. That's the thing. You can if you want.
I do sometimes.
Yeah, and me too. Do. Absolutely, and that's the greatest thing when I saw that, Cecilia, because everything that I had learned or studied before, I didn't realize how much in a box I put my thinking with it, and I loved what I was doing. I really loved, and I loved that I was blessed to work with people in that way. Now it's just even though it's work, it's more just hanging out. I think we forgot just to hang out with one another with nowhere to get to. And when there's nowhere to get to, the moment is still arriving, but it's filled with more good feeling. It's filled with more just like, let's just hang out and see where we go. And I love that Tony and I get to live our life that way too. There is times that when we put our work and so on together, but like I said, we've got a little bit of a break, a holiday, starting tomorrow. And we had thought we had friends coming, but they took sick. So it's just like, okay, so we'll see what we want to do with tomorrow then. Rather than, oh, that's our weekend spoiled. And it's like, let's just wake up tomorrow and just see where we go. And that just gives so much bandwidth, so much space, freedom in our thinking. And we understand thought more then, because thinking is the thing that gets us lost. That's the part from the past that tries to determine the now. And one little thing that I like saying to people is for a moment, and anyone who listen to this, just think of a time of maybe you were 14. And think of somewhere where you were really, really happy. A really good memory of when you were really happy and excited about something. And then the more you think about that memory, who were you with? Were you indoors? Were you outdoors? What were you wearing? And we begin to see that we bring a picture. Some bring a feeling. But we begin to have an experience from when we were 14. But you see, that experience is only in our thinking. Because we're not 14, unless there's a 14-year-old listening to it, but we're not 14. But it shows us the power of thought to go back and bring that back. And we have innocently did that with things that's not felt good. But we've brought them back and held on to them. Innocently, we've held on to them. And then they feel like words that we determine as anxiety, as stress, as depression, as addiction, and so on. Now, the great thing about how we work is this is not about going back to the past to determine why you did that and why you did this. This is realizing that, yes, that experience happened, but it's only real in the moment if you're thinking it. Now, when I heard that, I was like, whoa, I really threw myself back in the seat, because when I really heard that for myself, it was almost like I had been driving around over 140 miles an hour and going around the corner, and then all of a sudden it was like the foot came off the gas pedal and life just slowed down. And for a moment, I got to look around me. And I thought, oh, I've missed all this. I've been so busy in my thinking. I didn't hear those birds sing. When did that tree arrive? Everything, it had been around me. I started opening up to see life differently. Now, this is not unique to me. This is for everyone. And when we see that that is our truth, as we see it, not as I'm telling you, or Sydney Banks, or Cecilia, or Ylva, or anybody else on there, once you get to see that this is true for you, that you're the thinker of your experience, and just because you think a thought, you don't have to believe it. Life slows down. And I don't mean as in properly it slows down. Inside, for a moment, like what you pointed to, you were doing, and then all of a sudden the not doing brought a new understanding to you. But yet it's not new. It's been inside of you all along. And that's the same as everyone who will come on the retreat. They will get to see what is inside of them, the beauty inside of them, not the dysfunction, not the stress. And if that comes up, then that's something we work with in that moment. I'm not going to turn around and say, no, this is not the type of weekend for that. We create a space where someone is held. You know, there's a beautiful thing, and I'm not saying this is what we will do, but I love the message that this brings. And it's something I saw on social media, so I can't give you too much information of exactly where it's from, but there is an African tribe. And so they live together. So you have your little bit of hierarchy where you'd have your tribal leaders and your medicine people and so on and so on. And then and they have rules that they live to make sure that they look after one another. And if someone kind of steps out and does something wrong, instead of actually punishing that person, they create a circle and they sit the person in the circle and they sing. They sing to them. And they're singing the song of love. That's what I see. And that love allows that person to move on from what created the dysfunction or the disharmony in their life. So I hope this weekend in some way that our hearts sing to one another. That we begin to hear the heartbeat that connects us all inside of ourselves. And I don't know how that will happen, but I know that it will. I will guarantee you that. And that's a big thing to actually say, but I just know that the more people give themselves the permission to feel the wisdom that lies within, then life begins to change. You realize that it isn't just, well, I walk about like this and this is me. No, life changes. Just like that. And I was one of them who thought it would take months or years. And in an instant, my life changed. One thought away. But really, there's little thoughts that we have to take us to those moments. So we get to realize that we've been having light bulb, aha moments, insights all our life. And we've just, no, this feels right, I'm going to do it. And we've done it and life has been okay. But we've just looked, thank God I've got through that. Instead of, wow, I got through that. What was it that got me through that? And that's the exciting part. When you begin to understand, you bring understanding to the power of these principles, the power of awareness, where it's coming from rather than what it's doing. We built psychology on the wrongness that it's been doing. And we can honor that that's a misunderstanding. But we can truly honor that you are more than who you think you are. In fact, you are not who you think you are. And that's a beautiful place to be in.
And when you figure that out, you need to have a secure place to open up to be in. And I can tell that the weekend where we were together with you, Steve, you had that space for us, that safe space that was allowing us to open up for whatever comes up. And some people were quiet and some people open up, and you never know. It's an open space for that, where you can feel safe. And that's the most beautiful thing with being together. And I didn't want to leave because I felt it wasn't nice together. It was you come so close. It's not like another this is special because you go very deep, and you really feel the others.
It's beautiful to witness that. And, you know, and to witness it, like how you've just shared it, Celia, is so beautiful for me to hear, because I also get to hear it through your feeling now. And that's the beautiful thing about it. Like when we're sharing love or happiness or laughter, we have to feel it first. So we get to feel what we're sharing. And it's the same as when we're feeling afraid or angry or whatever we're feeling, we have to feel that first before we give it to someone else, or we think we gave it to someone else.
And you need to get it for yourself. And I feel that I have I can be in those moments by myself now, more and more.
Beautiful.
But I just love to go away, even if I can do this on my own. I feel like I want to have open up for more and continue the growing.
Yeah.
So it's not that I must have Steve, but I love to be together in a weekend like this.
Yeah. Yeah, me too.
But it's not that, like Sydney Banks said, don't be a follower. And I know for myself that I don't need that.
That's beautiful. That's beautiful. You know, that there is something that just comes to mind here, and then I'll ask you to tell me either number 1 or number 2, and then I'd like to read something of Sid, and I can't make up my mind which one, so maybe I'll throw it to you. But what keeps on coming to me is, you know, love is what we are born with. That's innate inside of us. And our soul, S-O-U-L, sharing our universal love, is something that we're all wanting to do. And we have so much love and sharing to give, no matter how small. It's a little bit like when people wake up from their psychological numbness or they're overthinking. It's a little bit like, you know, when you put popcorn in, they don't all pop at the same time. So this isn't like, oh, someone's getting it better than me. We will wake up. I mean, in the last retreat, I kept on going to the roses, and how the roses, and when you see them, they don't all open up at the same time, but yet the same beauty is opening up at the same time. So we can rest assured that we are learning at our pace.
But it happens by itself. We don't need to, like law of attraction, we don't need to tell, oh, love, I love you. We can just notice that love is flowing by itself. It opens up for it. We don't need to tell. You understand what I mean?
Absolutely. And then it's not a love like I bought you flowers, so I love you. It's not that kind of love. Is the nearest that we can explain. And the opposite of love is fear. And fear is what we have been taught or we have learned why we're here. And fear, F-E-A-R, is false evidence appearing real. So what we're fearful of is not real, it's only in our thinking. Now, we will be in situations where that might be fearful, and it might be true, but we can get ourselves out there. So I'm more wanting to look towards that feeling of love.
And it's a state of mind.
Absolutely. It's the natural state of mind that we were born with.
Yeah. So there's nothing to do. It's just fall into it.
Yeah. So number 1 or number 2, which number do you choose?
Take both.
I love it. I love it. We have the choice. Okay. So the first one that I was just flicking through this morning, and I love doing that with Sid stuff and just seeing what pops out. And this is from the Salt Spring Island Conversations. And I just thought it would be really nice just to bring a little bit more awareness to what we'll be sharing or looking at over the weekend. So if I may read this. When I talk about mind, I don't talk about personal mind. Therapists can do that. I am talking about universal mind. When I talk about consciousness, I'm talking about universal consciousness. If I talk about thought, I'm talking about universal thought. I always use the universal. That's where the secret lies. See, the little mind is like saying your ego mind. Because all ego is whatever you think life is, and whatever connection that you got personally to life. That is your ego, and that's a delusion. And that's why it's so detrimental to try go in and fix what you are calling ego. It's non-existent. It's a delusion. And once you realize that you can just drop it, but trying to create something from something that's non-existent is pretty difficult. And I love how Sid points so direct to what he's talking about. We have the small mind, the ego, the personality, but then there's the universal mind on that.
Yeah.
And in that universal mind is consciousness. And that's the other thing, that consciousness has infinite levels. So consciousness to me is awareness too. It lets us see, am I looking out and getting lost in the delusion of life and taking things real? Or am I feeling my well-being inside? Mm. Consciousness gives us the ability to realize the existence of life. Consciousness has infinite amount of levels. You will never come to the end of consciousness. It is literally impossible because consciousness is infinite. There is no end. And that's a beautiful thing to know, because it means to say there is no end of you finding beauty, love, and understanding in this world. You're not going to stagnate. You're going to keep growing. And the secret to growing is not to try. The secret to happiness is not to go out there and try and find it, because happiness is not out there. Happiness lies within the consciousness of every human being. If you can take your mind, clear it, become healthy, and see what you've got. Because you all have within you a divine secret that all the wise from the beginning of time have been trying to tell the world. You have it. That's why the great mystics of the world tell you to look within, because what you seek is inside. And the weekend, we will look inside and see the beauty, the love, and the understanding it's unfolding in that moment, in those moments.
I look forward to it. And I know there are many people that I know this time who's coming too, and I love to meet them also.
Yeah.
So I hope people will do things like that for themselves, because it's amazing how you can open up. And even if we go in and out in consciousness, we are always here. We are always home. So I look forward to meet you, Steve.
Yes.
It's soon.
Yes, it's coming around soon, and there is, I think we're almost fully booked. I think Ylva was saying there's one room left.
Yeah.
So I can't remember off the top of my head Ylva's email, but maybe when you share this, if you could maybe put in there Ylva's email in the description of this, and then people can contact her directly or find her on Facebook and reach out on that way. And there is, and maybe you can put a link to the actual, so that people can see how we describe the weekend. But I'm so looking forward to meeting the people who are already, and I believe the moment that you actually book is when consciousness is, we're coming together then. And group consciousness is so beautiful to work with. It really is. I just love when we bring souls together and share heart to heart, love to love, soul to soul, and just see that beautiful place of where Sydney Banks 50 years ago this year uncovered for the world to see that we no longer need to suffer, that we're living in an infinite life of possibilities when we look towards the nature of who we truly are. And I so look forward also for those people who are thinking of joining us and then decide to join us. I so look forward to meeting you too in person. Thank you, Cecilia.
Thank you, Steve. See you soon.
See you soon. Bye-bye.
Bye.